Who's there?
Doctor.
Doctor Who? Never heard that one before. Hi guys! Oh, better fix that. I'm not dead, and I'm reviewing episode 4 of series 10, Knock Knock.
Who's there?
We've done that joke already! Well, where to start? I've honestly not enjoyed a series this much in a really long time, and while I seem optimistic, you probably wouldn't think that if you'd have heard my thoughts on Face the Raven. Anyway, on to the actual episode. The episode starts off where Thin Ice left off, with Bill back in her own time and place, and also with a spontaneous new hairstyle. After a fairly funny montage backed by upbeat music, the plot begins to unwind. Bill's house-sharing group have very little chemistry, although that's pretty realistic in itself, get an offer for a too-good-to-be-true house share, and go to an ancient but well-kept location. The typical horror movie tropes start appearing, but even the characters take them lightly, so it feels like a bit of fun. Pavel goes to his room and puts on a record. A back record. That's a subtle bit of foreshadowing. Back equals bark, eh? He's then attacked by his room itself, which doesn't seem to like the pun as the record stops. Or it stops the record. After the titles, the episode abruptly changes to Bill waiting for the TARDIS to pick up her stuff, because companion privileges. Bill and the Doctor have a quick exposition chat, but the two bounce off each other really well again, making it one of the better scenes in the episode. The Doctor becomes more suspicious about there being no catch to the house, and starts to jump to conclusions, showing his more random side. A few awkward lines later, and he actually leaves his companion alone for once, or at least he seems to. Bill then has a pretty emotional moment talking to a photo of her mum, which doesn't go down well with the wall. I guess it doesn't like being spruced up. The gang talk about the noises the house was making, only to be interrupted by even more made by the Doctor himself, as he was looking through the house, and then even more made by the landlord, who basically ignores every complaint and gets snappy when Harry mentions the tower. He then knocks on wood with a specialised tool and disappears. Then Bill tries to get the Doctor to actually leave, but he instead tries to fit in with the gang. Most people would say him pretending to know modern music feels forced, but I can relate to it well enough, and without odd moments like that, the Doctor would basically be human. The Doctor then hints to Bill to check on Pavel, and weirdly stays downstairs. Bill then has a moment of actual character and puts down Paul, mentioning her preference without it seeming forced. Paul then has a boy who cried wolf moment, and actually gets attacked by the wolves. The house then has a tantrum and closes its own shutters, but not before one of the gang, I've given up on trying to remember all of their names at this point, who has claustrophobia, escapes through the last pair to shut before getting absorbed by one of the creaking trees. Bill finally takes the hint to check on Pavel now, with his back record on a constant loop, to find him embedded in the wall, becoming part of the wood itself. The landlord walks in on this and seems nonplussed by the whole situation, realising what's left of the gang have found him out. So he lets Pavel be absorbed into the wood before calling the wood on his two witnesses. The Doctor then realises that the wood itself is not the problem, but the alien bugs within it. In doing this, he accidentally calls the rest of the swarm and overuses the sonic again, but at least that's the only overused trope in this episode. They then discover the swarm of bugs take victims every 20 years, a trope of teen slashers, yes, but it gets very little attention, so it's alright. The landlord is suspiciously on the other side of the room, and reveals why the victims had to be taken, which was to save his daughter. This is another part of the episode I love, how there was an understandable reason for killing, rather than a coding typo, or money. The landlord then destroys any sympathy we could have had for him by killing Harry as he tries to get out of the room after hearing this. He then indirectly threatens the Doctor, who as usual convinces his enemy to spare him. The landlord's daughter is then revealed to be made out of wood, and she needs the life energy from the victims to stop her from turning completely solid. The Doctor then puts together how the insects got into the house, but still thinks the landlord is Eliza's father. Bill then makes the Doctor realise Eliza was actually the landlord's mother, as she has forgotten with being kept alive so long. The episode ends on an emotional, solemn and morbid note, with Eliza taking control of the infestation, and telling them on herself and her son, bringing an end to their life of delaying the inevitable. The episode has some hope, though, as all the gang are released from the wood, and weirdly not any of the previous victims, before the house collapses, and the Doctor leaves just as full of attitude as when he arrived. We then actually end the episode with the biggest tease of all, Nardole seemingly more annoyed with the Doctor with each passing episode, and then after he leaves, the Doctor then talks with his friend in the vault and has dinner with them? This episode is by far the most unique of the series so far, and while it does have echoes of Hyde, it has very much its own identity. David Suchet worked brilliantly as the landlord, effortlessly transitioning between a creepy old man to an overprotective son. I give this episode a 9 out of 10. It took a stereotyped and often mock genre and turned it into a pretty scary episode, with some great emotional moments. I really hope Mike Bartlett returns to write another episode in the next series. Actually, I may have made a slight misjudgment not giving this episode a perfect rating. My house is also mostly made of wood.